Hey, Foot Clan, make sure you spice up your home fantasy football league with a trophy, a perennial awesome trophy for now into the future from fantasychamps.com. You can get yourself some championship rings there and take your personal fantasy football team to the next level with those fantasy football jerseys customized to your team. Go to fantasychamps.com. You can use the promo code BALLERS to save 10%.
Hi, this is Eric Dickerson, NFL Hall of Famer, and you're listening to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from Draft.com Studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome into the show. Always a pleasure to be here.
I'm so happy to be here with you two gentlemen.
Everybody's happy and healthy and ready to talk football. I know I'm excited for the next few months. I'm excited to talk about the rookie class. I'm excited about free agency. I'm excited for the NFL draft. I'm excited for all the dynasty play. It's just going to be outstanding. And I know if you're here listening to the show with us, that you are excited as well, because it's late February.
1 week till the combine. That means about 2 weeks until free agency.
What do you call the combine again?
The Underwear Olympics.
That's right. We learned that on the last show. If you didn't hear that,
which was shocking news that two people in the fantasy football industry had never heard that, because our esteemed colleague Brooks said, "Oh yeah, they call it that all the time."
Yeah, and they do. But the nice thing is when you say something like that, you get an opportunity to pause and reflect on what is really being said, and that's what we chose to do.
It's true. And Mike, you know you are the most well-rounded in terms of just general pop culture and knowledge.
Yes.
You're a man of the people.
I am a man of the people. That's right.
Unverified.
Very unverified man of the people.
But a man of the people. Look, we have a great show today. This is the Overreaction episode. We're going to talk about players that we think maybe you shouldn't overreact to.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Is this really the Overreaction show? Because it seems like it's more of the Underreaction show.
Well,
we're trying to tell you what to not overreact to.
Yeah,
The Overreaction show is like, hey, guys, this is going to be nuts. Let's do this.
Last year, Matt Ryan was an example of we had him on this show. Well, we didn't have him on the show, but we had.
We asked.
He said, "You guys are overreacting to my top season," and we said what? We said, "Don't overreact to the huge year." So that was a don't overreact. But the people out there are overreacting. We're overreacting to Matt Ryan. Todd Gurley went from being that #1 running back, or top 5 guy. The year before to being a disappointment.
Yeah, and last year we said, or
don't overreact.
That's right. That's right.
DeAndre Hopkins, we said don't overreact. He had a down year, but things were amiss. Maybe we'll talk about some players that are in that category this year on today's show. We each chose 3 different names that we're going to bring up, make our cases, give our rebuttals, and I'm excited to see what you guys think. So if you want to participate in the conversation after you listen to the show, go over to Twitter at the FF Ballers. Chat with us. Let us know what you think. Let us know if there's somebody that we glaringly left off the list.
Yeah, comment on the YouTube comments. So who are you thinking people are going to overreact to that we don't cover here today?
If you want to win a Todd Gurley or Lev Bell signed jersey, we're giving them away at footclangiveaway.com. You can go over there, participate. It's free to enter, and we're going to give those away by the end of March. A signed Todd Gurley, signed Lev Bell jersey, and the Ultimate Draft Kit is available for pre-sale on the website, ultimatedraftkit.com. This is the one-stop shop to dominate your 2018 fantasy draft. Tons of tools, information, stuff you just can't miss.
You know you're going to get it, so might as well pre-order, save some of that cash.
And before we get into the quick question, I want to hop into these NFL dates, just make you aware of some things. The Combine... When is it, Mike?
It's next week. Is that correct? It starts next week. It starts Tuesday and runs through March 5th.
And then
isn't that?
Yeah,
March
I know
5th?
it runs through March 5th.
Okay, I'm just sorry. Wouldn't that be March 5th? next Tuesday?
I think it starts today, fellas, that we're recording
What?
this.
What? Hold on.
Because
Hold on.
we're the day before.
Am I reading this wrong? Oh, my goodness.
When you just search for NFL Combine, it shows today the 27th
Oh, my
through
goodness.
March 5th.
Okay, well, that means that the real drills don't start on Tuesday, so they'll start later this week. Man, I got all mixed up. All mixed up.
March 6th is the deadline to franchise. March 12th through the 14th is that legal tampering period where teams can start to wink at each other.
I call it the tickle fight.
Yeah,
tickle
they
fight
just
season.
they just start to try to get Kirk Cousins in the door. And then March 14th is when actual signings can take place. Free agency is open at 4 p.m. Eastern on the 14th of March. NFL Draft is April 16th through the 18th. And maybe Brooks can get us kind of some more specifics on the Combine premier event days. And you can kind of touch base with us later on during the show, Brooks. All right, quick question of the day.
Actually, can I touch base again right now?
Yeah, you can.
Get that base.
Friday, March 2nd.
There we go.
There we go.
Running backs, offensive line, kickers, and special team. Saturday, March 3rd, quarterbacks, wide receivers, and tight ends.
Wait, special teams?
ST is listed. I
Man.
guess that doesn't. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Look, if you make it in the NFL, you're a stud. You are an elite athlete. But if you're going into the Combine just to try out, I just want to be special teams, you got to aim higher. Got to aim higher.
Well, look, the long snappers.
Got to
Right?
aim higher.
I mean, that has to be the main category there, right? Like long snappers.
We'll find out.
Okay, thanks, Brooks.
yeah, and it's, Sunday and Monday is mostly defensive players, it looks like. So Friday and Saturday.
Defense. All right. I don't even know why this is the quick question based on my own answer, but this one comes in from James on Twitter. He says, how do you convince a league to drop their kickers in their defense positions?
I
and
think
my answer to this is lay off. They're fine.
I think this quick question
Why
comes
you got to
in
get rid of them?
because I know I do, and Mike, I think you're pretty much there with me. We disparage kickers a lot of times, not in the NFL, but for fantasy purposes, because they are not as easy to predict. They're not fun to play compared to the other. Just look at the draft season, and you look at all the time spent on researching all these players, and then look at the end-of-season rankings and realize what a big deal kickers make, and there's something off there. What I would recommend, and I'm speaking only of kickers because I actually love defenses in fantasy football so long as it's not dynasty. If you're in a keeper redraft, I love playing the waivers for kickers. I recommend nerfing kickers. Start with nerf. If your league, because I tried to get rid of kickers forever in our league of record, and
Yes, you have.
Andy stayed true to his quick question answer and said, no, leave them alone. Then finally,
I was in favor of nerfing them.
well, that's what I'm saying. Finally, the conversation shifted from get rid of kickers to just nerf them, because we had like kickers that were outscoring the top 5 tight ends, and make it to where they're not impacting the game.
For
so
example,
huge.
we had 50-yard kicks and above were 5 points, and 40+ were 4, and then below that it was 3, and then if you missed something within 30 yards, it was -2, and so we just took that and we just said, hey, look, you miss a kick, you get 0. You miss an extra point, you get -1. You make a kick, you get 3.
Yep.
And if you're over 50, you get 4.
Yep.
So we simplified it. It changed the variance, because I agree. It's obviously a harder to predict position. It's dependent entirely on game flow and field position and some of these things that. But at the same time, you have good kickers and you have bad kickers.
Of course.
Sure.
Did you have any thoughts there, Mike?
No, I'm completely with Jason on this one.
All right. Let's get into the news.
News and notes from around the league.
Well, I made a very public bet on Blake Bortles, and
That was a water bet, right?
yeah, it's not over yet.
Wait,
It's not over yet?
wait a
well,
minute.
right.
What was the bet? Tell me.
The bet was
'cause
that
I was
he'll
not here.
start week 1. That was the bet.
So you're going.
We're going to have to check the tape.
Yeah.
It was. Brooks, you remember this, right?
In our log, it says Blake the Snake will be a starter this year.
Right. I'm not paying that out until
so you're
he's
telling
a
me,
starter.
Hold on.
That is nonsense.
This
I'm not
going to
pay it out when there's a chance that an injury nullifies the bet.
But the injury would not have at all held to the spirit of what you were saying. That's what I was going to bring up. So you're saying that if he's there and he's ready to be their starter, and on the drive to week 1,
pay it out if
he got injured for the season, you would say I won the bet.
I would say that I was accurate in my prediction.
Okay.
Well, I'm not inaccurate. Brooks, read the bet to me again.
I think he's going to have to start a game.
Thank you.
Blake the Snake will be a starter.
Yeah,
okay.
You're the judge.
Okay, you're creating You're
all right, Twitter.
You're greasing that slope on
Twitter
all
and
bets.
YouTube.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
You have to start a game to be the starter, don't you?
Thank you.
No.
It's just common sense.
No. I mean,
it's the bet was we'll start a game.
That was not the bet.
Yes, it was.
We'll check the tape for the official
Okay, so how would
wording.
you pay that bet out? The bet, will he sign a 3-year, $54 million contract with the Jacksonville
Jaguars?
Jaguars?
Will Jacksonville decide that he is their starting quarterback?
No, it wasn't.
No, I'm saying the spirit of it.
For you, maybe.
Well,
but that wasn't for me.
All right, moving
the
on.
Jags have signed Blake Bortles to a 3-year deal. What was so funny about this back and forth ping-pong story thing is it was Blake Bortles as the starter. Then a news story broke out this weekend that said they are looking at their options elsewhere. We've heard about Kirk Cousins. In my opinion, if I'm Jacksonville with that defense, I'm probably trying to find a better solution than Blake Bortles. Because the teams the reason they were defeated by New England in the playoffs is because once the second half rolled around, Blake Bortles, they made him beat him, and he couldn't.
I think it was play calling. Blake Bortles played pretty well.
Yeah. I would agree. I think it was more that they
that's
tried to
chicken or egg, because if you have a player that you don't believe and can't trust to call plays for because he makes mistakes, you don't call the plays. So if the guy has historically shown you he can't perform, which he has for the most part, that you can't trust him, they couldn't commit a big turnover. I get it. We don't get to see what happens if they make those play calls. But maybe they do when he throws 3 picks. Maybe they do when he wins the game. Either way, he signed a new 3-year deal. To me, this is Blake Bortles. Look, you're going to sign whatever this offer is.
Yeah.
Because if you aren't back with Jacksonville, there's a chance I was going to be right with that bet. Would you agree with that? If he wasn't with Jacksonville, there's a chance he's not starting next year.
Yeah. Yeah,
so, certainly a chance. Yes. But he played well enough. I mean, in that game against the Patriots, he had a 98.5 passer rating. I mean, he played well, and the thing about this contract is it doesn't break the bank. He is actually reasonably cheap. He will be, as far as a cap hit this year, the 19th quarterback according to Spotrac.
And I believe they have a lot of flexibility to get out of this thing in 2019.
Yes.
Okay. But Blake Bortles got paid
Good for you,
some
Blake.
money, and I'm going to lose the bet. I'm going to probably lose this bet.
Unless you Tanya Harding this situation,
I'm not
you're gonna
willing.
lose.
Not willing. All right, the Rams have acquired Marcus Peters from the Chiefs in exchange for some draft picks, a 2018 4th-round pick and a 2019 2nd-round pick. I think they sent back a 6th with Marcus Peters. And, look, this is just a trade to – they're reworking this Chiefs offense, defense. They're getting younger.
They're reworking the
They're
cap.
getting cheaper. And this is probably good for both teams. I think it's probably good for both.
On the Rams side, I know that there's some speculation that this could – free them up with who they franchise to franchise Sammy Watkins if they're afraid of him departing town.
Departing town, as they say. The Jags have released...
I'm about to depart, see?
Depart town, see? The Jags have released Chris Ivory.
Yep. It makes complete sense.
Yeah. I think T.J. Yeldon showed he is a great player for a specific role.
Yeah, Yeldon in the back half of
as
a
opposed
timeshare,
to being
Yeldon
forced
is great.
into that starting role from years before.
Yep.
Adam Vinatieri.
But I would pick up Corey Grant if he's available in any
he's a free agent too, isn't he?
He's a restricted free agent. We don't know what his
Jason's
outlook
right, though.
will be.
Keep your eyes on him. Adam Vinatieri, 1-year deal. He's going to be back. And he's going to be back to break the NFL's all-time scoring record. He is in his late 70s. Is that correct? Early 70s.
Early 70s, yes.
The Dolphins plan to release Julius Thomas by the start of the new year.
Mm-hmm.
Did he ever Did he?
No.
Did he ever play for them? Did he ever?
Whatever your question.
Mike Jurecki of the Arizona Sports does not expect the Cardinals to join the bidding war for Kirk Cousins. So we'll see.
Yeah. The Arizona Cardinals still could surprise and jump in.
But they have problems on the offensive line.
They certainly do. And
I want them to bring in Andrew Norwell.
There are whispers in the bushes that they will bring in Andrew Norwell, offensive guard from the Panthers, who graded out, I think he was a top 5 offensive guard from Pro Football Focus. He's a great player and will get paid a lot of money. You're not going to be able to pay a lot of money for the line and pay Kirk Cousins.
All right, I really want to get into these overreactions. Before that, Ian Rappaport talking about the fact the Bills are not planning to release Tyrod Taylor at this point.
Yeah.
And he's also reporting that
this is huge.
Vikings, that's why I want to end with it. The Vikings are not expected to franchise tag Case Keenum, slated to hit free agency, barring a change of heart.
This seems like
I want those news stories. Barring a change in this news, this is the news.
This seems like they could be trying to make that run at Kirk Cousins and, not.
They've got the cap room.
They do. They certainly do. So it would be a great destination for Kirk Cousins, and it also frees up some of the other teams that that are perfect example. Arizona Cardinals saying we're not going to go after Kirk Cousins. We don't have the money. It might be better for the Arizona Cardinals to put that money elsewhere, improve their offensive line, and get someone like a Case Keenum than to put it all at the quarterback position. When differences in opinion about whether or not Kirk is a true franchise-saving quarterback, which I do not believe he is.
Also, Jarvis Landry news. He signed the franchise tender.
He signed it?
Or, I'm sorry, he was assigned the franchise tag. They are ambitiously seeking to trade him. That is the most recent report, is affirming their desire to trade, get compensation, and send Jarvis Landry elsewhere. So if you're a Devontae Parker owner, if you're a Kenny Stills owner, Jarvis Landry, obviously there are going to be massive fantasy implications in whatever happens in that transaction. So, all right, before we talk overreaction, we do want to thank today's sponsor, Pristine Auction. Go over to pristineauction.com. I'm telling you, you're going to find a plethora of amazing autographs, signed, sports, memorabilia, spanning all sports. Obviously, we are a football show, so I'm going to let you know that they just recently auctioned off an official Brett Favre signed Packers 8x10 photo, $68. Alvin Kamara signed custom matte white ice mini helmet, $92.
Speaking of Kamara,
we snagged one.
We got it.
Yeah, we got a Kamara jersey. What'd you pay for that?
From
75
Yeah, right around there.
Tyreek Hill signed jersey, $55. There's hundreds every
$55?
Evan Ingram signed Giants jersey. Just went yesterday, $40.54.
That's nonsense.
So that was stolen. I'm going to report that to the authorities. Look, there are hundreds of daily auctions. That's the gist. Hundreds of them. So we read you these literally off of the site yesterday. So hundreds every day. Check them out, pristineauction.com, Pristine auction.com.
Attention gamers. We want to thank World of Warships for sponsoring the show. You can captain some of the greatest warships of World War II in World of Warships. It's a free-to-play historical online combat game from War Gaming. Every match is a unique experience filled with endless hours of strategy, tactical gameplay, pulse-pounding naval combat.
My pulse is pounding right now.
Well, you're thinking about the warships.
Yeah,
you got to get in there. World of Warships brings players endless hours of – oh, I already talked about the endless hours. It's really the perfect balance of action and strategies. Sports fans, we love it. We love to compete. We all play games. We all love playing these games, and we want to be competitive when we do it, and World of Warships brings you that opportunity. You can download World of Warships for free today at commandwarships.com. You're going to begin your naval adventure. Make sure you enter the code Footballers18, all caps to be the captain, Footballers18. When you download, you get a ton of bonus content courtesy of us. That includes a free premium ship Aurora, in-game currency. Get things going. Download World of Warships today at commandwarships.com.
I'm not going to do what you all think I'm going to do, which is just flip out.
That's in my top 5 drops. I really like that one. I'm a big fan.
That might be in my top 10 movies all time. Jerry Maguire.
Great movie. Great movie. All right, let's talk overreactions, things that we expect to see from fantasy owners, league mates, Maybe you're going to see it reflected in draft reporting, in terms of fantasy draft reporting and the way that people are talking. And we are here to equip you. We're here to inform you. We're here to get you thinking the right way about fantasy football, and that means taking a second look at some of these overreactions. And I'm going to start this out because
this segment is brought to you by Xanax.
Yeah.
Chill out.
Not an official sponsor.
No.
But I think the name that I'm going to throw out there first is perfect because we tell you on the show, Mike brings it up all the time, stay water, right? Be pliable. This is a player that I didn't have very much confidence in last year at the fantasy quarterback position. And I have to let the stats and the performance on the field dictate the way I feel about him heading into next year. Now, the reality is if you owned him last year, you didn't end up in a good place as a fantasy owner. But Jameis Winston does not suck. Okay, he does not suck as an NFL quarterback, and he does not suck as a fantasy quarterback. Last year, we saw some very interesting statistics out of Jameis Winston. First of all, you had a poorer beginning to the year.
It was rough.
Really bad. Tough schedule. We talked about that at the beginning of last year too. But then you had an injury as well. And so you saw the feeling around Jameis Winston is that been there, done that as a fantasy owner. Let's throw our chips somewhere else. Last year, Jameis Winston had a career-high completion percentage. And what I thought was really impressive was looking at the splits of Jameis Winston. He went from 61% in the first half of the year to over 66% completion percentage in the second half. That's an incredible completion percentage. That is really, really good. And you saw a career low in interceptions, something he struggled with immensely in the NFL. And so what you really had from a fantasy perspective was you had a low touchdown total. Last year his touchdowns were down. And you had him missing games. And you had Mike Evans not, giving you that Mike Evans type of season. But look at this. And here's my final point here. I just want people to realize what you're looking for at a quarterback, at a value quarterback in the draft, is you're looking for a range of possible outcomes, right? There are certain players you draft, and they have the potential to finish between 5 and 15 or between 8 and 10. But Jameis Winston, over the last 5 games of last year, averaged 316 yards a game, which is over a 5,000-yard pace. And he was on pace for 29 touchdowns in that time. So his range of possible outcomes is he still has the capability of getting you high-profile fantasy numbers. He's going to end up of value. I'm bringing him up now because, one, I think you guys both are on board with this. And
totally.
And two, I think that he's going to end up in our ultimate draft kit as a value or a sleeper pick this year because I think we all like the potential of Jameis Winston.
Yeah, I don't think the narrative is going to change for him, right? Like, he had a lot of publicity this last year when they brought in Deshaun Jackson and they draft O.J. Howard and expectations and hopes were high. This is why people are overreacting and thinking he sucked so bad this last year. I actually, if you didn't make Jameis Winston one of your guys, I would have made him one of mine because he's the perfect. Don't overreact from last year. He also dealt with that injury and then coming back and having a kind of a lousy time getting back in the swing of things.
The connection with Deshaun Jackson, I mean, just narrowly missing a guy running free for a touchdown by a yard or two in
5 or 6 times.
And he'll be back this year, speaking of Deshaun Jackson. And the other thing is they stunk, man. They were the second worst team in the NFC.
Yeah.
So when you stink and your team stinks and the perception of you is bad, that's the overreaction we're telling you to avoid. Jameis Winston is actually going to provide fantasy value next year.
All right, let me give you the exact opposite overreaction. Let's talk about not a team that stunk. Let's talk about a team that won the Super Bowl.
Ooh,
they are so great. A great defense, a great offense, and it's all led, despite the Super Bowl MVP, by their franchise quarterback, Carson Wentz. And I can tell you right now, people will be overreacting to how good he was when healthy this year, and he will be overdrafted this coming season. There are a slew of reasons for this, but let's just pretend that the injury isn't one of them. Okay, let's say he's not coming back from a late-season injury.
Even with the injury, he was the number 4 quarterback. Just so you know, I'm making your
exactly.
He
was the number 4, even though he only played 13 games. He was that good. He was on pace for 41 touchdowns, and his touchdown percentage, meaning of his attempts when he threw the ball, how many were touchdowns, was 7.5. Who is the best, modern era, the last decade, who's the most efficient touchdown throwing quarterback in the NFL? Hall of Famer.
It's Aaron Rodgers.
It's Aaron Rodgers.
It's Aaron Rodgers.
He's clearly the best at just throwing touchdowns.
Because he'll have lower yardage games, but always give you high production.
Yeah, he is. He is the gold standard for touchdown percentage, and over his career since he's been a starter, he's 6.5%. He's a percent.
Are you telling me Carson Wentz is better than Aaron Rodgers?
He's 1% better than Aaron Rodgers, a whole percent better. No, I'm saying that it's not sustainable for him to throw those amount of touchdowns. And if you compare it to the yards that he threw, he was on pace for just barely over 4,000 yards. His 16-game pace would have put him about 10th, just ahead of Alex Smith as far as yardage thrown. You add in the unfortunate injury that happened very, very late for a rushing quarterback, which hurts some of his rushing numbers. And my point is just this. Because he's so young and was so good, was throwing touchdowns left, right, and center, and because they won the Super Bowl, and you're going to go into next year with everyone thinking the Eagles are a contender, they're a great team, I want the quarterback of a great team, he'll be drafted in that 4th, 5th round, maybe 6th, and I'm saying don't do it. Don't do it. You're going to be overreacting if you do that.
All right, I'm going to jump in here. I'm staying at the quarterback position. A player who was ranked, I think, as a top 5 fantasy quarterback coming into the past season because he always finishes there except for last year, and that is Drew Brees. Now, Jason and I, he's giving me the eyes right now. He's giving me the look.
Yeah, I'm not
sure. Jason's not sure.
We said this beforehand when we were in the office. I was like, "Whoa, really?" Because I am going to be one of those people overreacting based on last year. And he said, "Well, let's see if I can convince you." So I'm all ears, Mike.
So here's the deal: if you think that Drew Brees is washed, you were not watching Drew Brees play quarterback last season. Drew Brees was 9th in attempts, so still top 10 in passing volume. But however, first in completion percentage. In fact, he said of all time. And if you're thinking, well, I don't want to buy into the outlier, well, you know who owns 3 of the top 4 most accurate seasons? That's Drew Brees. So that's not a bizarre outlier thing for him. Here is where I think that some things start getting interesting because it's all about touchdowns for Drew Brees. Yes, the yardage did come down, but the touchdowns is where things got way out of whack for Drew Brees for fantasy purposes. Here are some deep passing numbers, of which Drew Brees was one of the most accurate deep passers. Alex Smith had 33 completions, deep passes, 12 touchdowns. Russell Wilson had 33 completions of deep passes, 12 touchdowns. Matt Stafford had 30 completions, deep pass, 10 touchdowns. Carson Wentz, you just talked about him, 25 deep completions, 10 touchdowns. Drew Brees, 33, 5 touchdowns. Those numbers just vanished. So of passers, there was 5 passers that had over 30 deep completions. 3 of 5 had 10 or more touchdowns. The only guys that didn't, Drew Brees and Tom Brady. Here's Drew Brees' touchdown rates since 2013. 6.0, 5.0, 5.1, 5.5, 4.3. And here's my final point on here. Here is the passing touchdown to rushing touchdown ratio for the New Orleans Saints over the past 5 years. So in 2013, 3.9. So as in you had 3.9 passing touchdowns for every 1 rushing touchdown. That's pretty high. However, then you go 2.1, 2, 2.3, 1. There was a full 1-to-1 ratio of rushing touchdowns to passing touchdowns. One of those numbers stands out as a complete outlier for a guy who is going to be a first ballot Hall of Fame. There's nothing in his numbers or his play that says that he is lost anything or is washed at all. So I think that people are going to overreact and drop Drew Brees out of the fantasy light where he still should remain, which Drew Brees is going to be a fantasy steal for me in drafts.
My only issue there, so the deep passing is really that's quality investigative journalism, Mike.
Well, thank you. Nice pronunciation.
Yeah, thank you. That's kind of my role here. The only issue I have is I think a part of why that number happened, speaking of the pass-to-rush ratio, is because they weren't always down like they had been, the last 3 or 4 years. Their defense got a lot better, and he wasn't having to throw the ball as much, thus the yardage and thus the passing touchdowns going away. That's my worry, is that I think the Saints are really good next year. And
here's not an ADP question, a who would you rather have question, Mike. Brees or Ryan?
Brees.
Brees or Wentz?
Just head-to-head?
Yes.
I mean, I think it's Carson Wentz, but I can't honestly give you an answer for that right now.
Andrew Luck?
Brees, as of right now.
Tom Brady?
Lean Brady, but that's really close.
And it's less of a question of would you rather, who'd you rather draft? It's just where do you think they'll finish?
Sure.
So interesting. Yeah, it's so hard not to when you have part one, his age getting up there, and part two, production going down, there is a beginning of the end for everybody. But
certainly,
what you're saying is kind of like no statistical reason for that.
I've talked about this on a few shows ago about wide receivers and touchdowns and how it's not as sticky as we want it to be. And I think that's just what happened here for Drew Brees, is just game situation ended up that they were able to get more rushing touchdowns. And, I mean, you flip 5 touchdowns back to what they're normally at. It's the fantasy outlook is completely different for Drew Brees.
All right, looks like we all went with wide receivers for this next one. I went with T.Y. Hilton, and I know how frustrating it was to own T.Y. Hilton, to even glance upon his fantasy stat sheet from week to week last year. He didn't break 1,000 yards.
Makes you vomit.
He only had 57 receptions. But I want people to remember that T.Y. Hilton is still an elite fantasy wide receiver. That's what I want people to realize. The overreaction is he's going to get tossed down below Brandon Cooks and Adam Thielen and Tyreek Hill. Those are the players that are going to fight him for average draft position. But last year you saw his catch percentage drop. He's normally been in the 58, 59% for his career. It was 52%. We know why that was. It was quarterback play, right? Andrew Luck wasn't there. He still had his highest yards per catch since his rookie season, 16.9 yards. He's still a game-breaking wide receiver. The opportunities disintegrated without Andrew Luck. Larry Fitzgerald, who's now coming off his third straight 100-plus reception season. He had 3 straight sub-1,000 seasons when he didn't have a real quarterback in Arizona, and his receptions dropped from 71, 82, 63. That's what you're seeing. Go back 2 years. T.Y. Hilton was a 91 reception, league-leading 1,400-plus yard, 6-touchdown guy. You're never going to get more than 5 or 6 touchdowns, maybe 7 touchdowns from T.Y. Hilton. But you're not going to get 57 for 966 next year with Andrew Luck. You're going to have him. He'll be well over 1,000 yards. He'll be well over 80 receptions or in that range. And he always plays 16 games, which is not something that you can count on from fantasy wideouts.
Right.
So I'd say don't overreact to the down season. Just kind of throw it away the way you would have done with Larry's years with John Skelton and such, and just move on.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm gonna go with a guy that I hesitated putting down, but this is kind of the point. Amari Cooper.
What are you doing with Amari Cooper?
I am not overreacting. Now, what I am not saying here is that he's going to completely break out and be, a top 5 wide receiver. What was that?
What is that?
That was you.
Well, it sure
was. Is that
was.
an inception of Amari Cooper?
All right.
I thought I had the the Cooper drop, and I found apparently some old track of Jason just talking about him.
Mr. Cooper.
All right, so Amari Cooper,
sorry,
who came into the league in a great fashion, right? He was the highest drafted wide receiver that year. So this is a guy that from his college tape. There it is.
There we go.
There it is. Hanging with Mr. Cooper. Coming out of college, everybody knew this is a really talented wide receiver. He's fast. He runs good routes. All of a sudden, he comes out first year. He shows it. he is a great wide receiver. In fact, his first 2 years combined, and a lot of people didn't like his sophomore year, he didn't have enough touchdowns. You know, people were sad on that. His first 2 seasons as an NFL wide receiver, if you go all the way back to 2000, so we're talking the last 17 years, he's got the 12th best combined first and second years. This is not a bad wide receiver, and he rightfully gets a lot of grief from this last year.
It's perfect that you're choosing this.
Why?
Because you traded for him at the end of the year. You tried to find the value in him.
I did, because I could trade very low.
You got a soft spot for him.
I could trade very low on Amari Cooper, and I think he's going to be able to put this behind him. It's recently come to light. You never know if these things are a little extra fluff or true, but Derek Carr came out and said, look, if you knew what Amari Cooper was dealing with health-wise this year, most other players would not have even suited up. And he was out here giving it everything he had.
Yeah, I believe the quote was he's out there playing on 1 foot, according to Derek Carr.
Right. And so he's out there giving it everything he had. He had 10 drops. Everything he got. But he had a very poor season. And what I'm saying is don't overreact. It's way too early to know players' average draft positions yet because numbers are so easily skewed. But I took a look today at every platform I could as far as where real drafts are happening, drafts, best ball leagues that we're in all the time. Where is he actually going in there? MFL 10 drafts, and just anywhere I could find to see real ADP numbers. And some places, Amari Cooper is still getting respect, but I've seen him as low as, being in the 20s, mid-20s as a wide receiver. He is a talented guy who is going to be, I think, the clear number one. I expect Crabtree to be back, but the fact that they've talked about cutting him does not instill a lot of hope there. Gruden's coming in. He's going to have to figure out, who are my key pieces to build around, and Cooper's going to be one of those guys. So don't overreact and leave him for dead the way that a lot of people did with DeAndre Hopkins during his down year.
All right. I'm going to talk about – it's a little auxiliary piece here for what Andy was talking about, and that from Jameis Winston to Mike Evans. We recently released an article talking about our writers put together their way too early top 10. And you can comment on this, Brooks. People are saying they do not like Mike Evans.
There were many comments that he should not be in the top 10.
They do not like Mike Evans. And here's my counterpoint to Mike Evans. And this entire argument is about the red zone, efficiency in the red zone, and touchdowns. I have some very interesting numbers here. In 2014, Mike Evans, rookie, sets the world on fire. He gets 13 targets inside the red zone. Turns that into 6 touchdowns. Everybody loves Mike Evans. The next year, 14 targets in the red zone, 2 touchdowns. Everybody hates Mike Evans. 2016, 17 targets, 7 touchdowns in the red zone. We love Mike Evans again. He's great. And then last year, 18 targets in the red zone and 3 touchdowns.
His career is the equivalent to Tyreek Hill week to week.
Yes, he's up and down. Here's the thing, though. Mike Evans has never had fewer than 1,000 receiving yards in a season. And last year, there were 3 players out of 20 qualified players who had 19 or more red zone targets. Only 3 guys had a catch rate below 40%. Mike Evans is in there. The other 2 may shock you, may not, but Adam Thielen and Julio Jones. 3 guys who had touchdown problems.
It's funny that Julio did, because that means they did give him the ball down there.
Oh, he had and
he didn't come up with it.
He had 6 receptions out of 22 targets in the red zone. And other players on the team were fine. So this wasn't I put this up a while on Twitter, and for Adam Thielen, people are like, oh, Case Keenum, is in the red zone. Stephon Diggs, Kyle Rudolph, perfectly fine. Mohamed Sanu, Austin Hooper, perfectly fine. Deshaun Jackson was fine. The other guys from Tampa Bay, their catch percentage wasn't as high, but Mike Evans was by far the
And obviously your
lowest.
point here is that don't overreact to Mike Evans on a
Yes.
down touchdown year. Can I poke you a little bit?
Sure.
Last year, he had 96 receptions for 1,321 yards and 12 touchdowns.
You mean 2 years ago?
Sorry, yes, 2 years ago. I guess we're now referring to
Yes,
the most
we
recent
are.
year. Okay. So 2 years ago, the big-time year, the happy year, if he had fewer touchdowns that season, you would have still been very happy with him.
Yes.
Because he had the 96 receptions. The other 3 years in his career, 68 receptions, 74, 71. Last year was his lowest yardage year, lowest
Yards per reception went way down for
right.
compared
well, they've been
to
down the last couple of years. But my point is this. Is he the kind of player that you can see belongs in that 70 catch range? Does he need the touchdowns?
Yes,
and you're
he
just
does.
expecting them to come back.
Well, he does. I'm not fully projecting all the touchdowns to come back. I'm not saying it's double-digit touchdowns here for Mike Evans. My point is simply people are going to overreact and say, I don't want Mike Evans on my team.
They spent a lot on him.
He's a
That's
bum.
why.
He had 5 touchdowns last year. He stinks.
There were those that drafted him over, probably over Beckham in some dynasty leagues last year.
Yeah,
Possibly.
Yeah, he was on that list.
It was like an early second-round pick, which, to be fair, we did say he's not worth that draft capital. But what I'm saying is don't put him on your fantasy burns. Like, I will not draft Mike Evans. If you're hanging out in the 3rd round, you need a wide receiver.
absolutely.
Mike Evans fits that bill.
I mean, I brought up the fact that Amari Cooper, his first 2 years, going all the way back to 2000, is the 12th best in that whole time. Well, the 8th best would be Mike Evans, one spot ahead of Calvin Johnson. And if you look at the first 3 years of a wide receiver going back to 2000, he's the 3rd best. The only 2 guys with better seasons were Odell Beckham Jr. and A.J. Green.
All right, this last overreaction candidate for me, it's a difficult one. And I wish I could just hedge, right? But the question that I have, the overreaction that I have is Kareem Hunt elite, and is he worthy of an elite draft pick?
Ooh.
And I guess I'm throwing some caution out there because there are 3 to 4 reasons why I think Kareem Hunt might not be worth what you draft him for in 2018. Reason number 1, it already existed last year, and we saw what happened. And that's the Andy Reid reason. Tends to forget guys for a little while. Weeks 4 through 13 for Kareem Hunt were not that great. They were not. He never surpassed 16 fantasy points. He had single digits in that time period. He had these random single-digit weeks in terms of carries that Andy Reid provides. So that variable was there last year. Obviously, he had a monster month 1, right? His month 1, he was 8.53 yards per attempt. He went insane. But after month 1, 3.6, 3.33 in month 3. Went back up at the very end of the year, gave people the hope, and I think exactly what they need to draft him very, very high. He was 4.97. But I want to remind people about a couple other factors. 1, you do have a change at the quarterback position. You have Pat Mahomes taking over for Alex Smith, right? And 2, last year they lost Spencer Ware, and they made do with Kareem Hunt and Charkandrick West. I'm not going to be surprised if they put themselves in a position where they don't have to overload Kareem Hunt, especially the way months 2 and 3 ended up. From a workload perspective, people thought maybe he got tired, whatever that was. So I think depth is going to be something that they add to the running back. They don't take it away. So I don't think opportunities are going to go way up. You got a different quarterback. You got the Andy Reid situation. And I hate to bring him up because it's not fair to just imbue what happened to Jeremy Hill on everybody. But Jeremy Hill's an example of a rookie that set the world on fire, that caught your eye, 5.1 yards per attempt. Well, year 2, the world's your oyster, Jeremy Hill, and he went out and it's 3.6 a carry. And you had multiple months in a row with 3 point. It wasn't just opportunity for Kareem Hunt in those 2 months. It was 2 straight months of 3.6, 3.3. So do I think he's a guaranteed elite player? I don't. Now, you guys, you might not fall in the same category.
Well, the only things I wanted to bring up in favor of Kareem Hunt, he did lead the league in rushing this past year, despite 5 other players having more carries than him. He forced more missed tackles than any other running back by 13. He forced 61 missed tackles. Number 2 is Melvin Gordon at 48. He's number 1 in yards after contact. Yeah, the glasses are – that's fine. You can put the glasses down for Melvin Gordon. That's fine. Number 1 in yards after contact, 839 yards. That's more than Lev Bell. That's more than Todd Gurley. So I think he's a really, really freaking good running back.
Right, and I
cannot argue with
fair.
Andy
fair.
Reid. Andy Reid frequently forgets who his best players are. This is just – this happens. The depth –
he needs a cheat sheet from the Ultimate Draft Kit.
As for depth, I disagree that they will bring anyone into challenge.
Even if they don't, though, Spencer Ware could be that guy that comes in and just takes a few carries.
I just think it's a decision. That's all I'm saying.
Sure.
My whole overreaction is I think you actually have to make a decision as an owner like Mike to say I think he's really good. He's going to overcome obstacles, or I don't think he's worth the draft value.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah. He will be drafted very, very high.
Yeah.
Right, and I do think that his talent will win in the end. I see him as very talented, but there are no doubt issues like Andy Reid opportunities. With my third guy, I tried a couple different approaches and either decided it wasn't a big enough overreaction, or there was not enough data to back it up. Like I was going to say, people are going to overreact on Evan Ingram's rookie year, and as I started really trying to nail that down, I went, maybe
he's gonna get targets.
He's gonna get targets. All right, well, next guy. Look, I'll say this: if people overreact and drop Adam Thielen based on how he finished the year, you're a dummy. But I don't think people are going to overreact and drop him. I wish they would, so I could shame you. And then my other one that I failed on was I was going to say people are going to overreact on rookie running backs based on this crazy year, but because we haven't even gone through the NFL draft and don't know where these incoming rookies are, that's not time to do it. So I landed with another.
You sound like you're staying water, Jason.
I am staying water, and I believe this one with all my heart. I think people will overreact on Kirk Cousins and his wide receivers wherever he lands.
Sign me up.
Yes.
In other words, wherever he goes, you're going to get the hype train on those wideouts.
You're going to
like
talk
Terrell
about
Pryor or
exactly. You're going to talk about
I hope he's with Pryor
Demarius
again
Thomas.
somehow.
You're going to talk about Demarius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, or you're going to talk about Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs. But the thing is you're going to talk about it a lot. One of the things we had on our Things to Remember episode was don't forget how lousy all the free agents were, the majority of them. Because what happens is when they move, they get news. And no one's getting more news than the biggest quarterback free agent signing in the last, as long as you can remember. You've got a franchise-level contract.
There was one.
Well, sure. Are you talking Peyton?
Yeah.
All right. Fair. Okay, he takes the cake.
Technically, the Jolly Green Giant was bigger.
He was a free agent?
Oh, you're right. No, that was restricted.
There you go. So
you can't let the Jolly Green Giant go.
You
pay him what he wants.
What will happen?
Green beans. He wants more veggies.
There will be so much talk surrounding his arrival and what it means that it will lead to an overreaction where the wide receivers are bumped up too high, where he's bumped up too high, and we're going to completely ignore the fact that he's changing teams.
You're talking about the number 7 overall quarterback?
And the number 6 quarterback the year before. Those will be the arguments that come out.
Success of the year.
3 straight years of 4,000 yards.
Yeah, no.
I mean,
exactly. Okay. You guys are making my point, and you don't realize
one of the more accurate quarterbacks.
You guys are making my point. My point is all of those things,
castle.
Those are what's going to be said about Kirk Cousins going to this new team. But what I want you to remember is that
I want you to hate on Demarius Thomas when he lands in Denver.
He does
That's
not
what I want to hear.
Get one single piece of familiarity.
Sure.
Of consistency, he doesn't get one. Now, unless Terrell Pryor or someone moves with him.
I'm just going to say it worked out real well for Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning threw almost 4,700 yards, 37 touchdowns.
Man, I love this so much.
I've learned a few things on the show. Mike Evans is better than Calvin Johnson. Carson Wentz is better than Aaron Rodgers. And now
Kirk Cousins is
better
equal
than
to
Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning. Yes, if Peyton Manning switches teams, he's good. I said earlier, Kirk Cousins is not a franchise-saving quarterback. Peyton Manning is a franchise-saving quarterback. Clearly, obviously, he's done it for 2 different franchises. I don't know if you guys realize this, but the great Kirk Cousins, did you know that Washington, the Washington Redskins,
please be his name.
The Washington Redskins
Kirk Cousins
actually had him the last few years.
They did.
The I mean, why didn't he bring him to a Super Bowl?
He didn't?
Oh, yeah.
The great Kirk Cousins?
The great Kirk Cousins. He's not that good.
You're going with the Super Bowl argument.
No, I'm playoffs.
He got to the playoffs.
Last year?
2
How about
years
2
ago?
years before that?
They took all
you're just going to leapfrog the one year they made
I'm
it?
took
saying
all
this.
his wideouts away
I'm
last
saying
year.
this.
Jordan Reed was hurt.
Well, we'll see, but people are going to overreact, and clearly 2 people are going to overreact on this show.
I think we both like Kirk Cousins.
Yes.
Good.
Speaking of Washington, this is where the last.
Oh, you still got one more.
This is the last overreaction, and it's going to pale in comparison because I cannot possibly be as passionate about this as Jason just was.
The great Kirk Cousins.
About the great Kirk Cousins.
Hashtag sarcasm. But continue.
I'm going with italics. The great. Emphasis.
Oof.
Emphasis.
And this is do not write off the Washington run game.
Okay.
Because we had a report a few days ago that said we expect Samaje Perine to be the starter, and now there's another report they look to upgrade the running back situation, which they might. But my point is simply, if Samaje Perine is the starting running back, don't write him off. Because the Washington offensive line, their starters, missed a combined 20 games. And that doesn't even start to account for all of the backups that got hurt. In 2016, according to Football Outsiders, they were the 6th best run-blocking offensive line. They were the 3rd best pass-blocking offensive line. And that had Matt Jones. You guys remember Matt Jones?
Mm-hmm. Do I?
Ran for 4.6 yards per carry. Rob Kelly ran for 4.2 in 2016. Last year in 2017, Rob Kelly trudged along for 3.1 and carrying Samaje Perine at 3.4. So I think this is more a situation of the offensive line was absolutely mangled, destroyed. For the most part, it's coming back. I'm talking about guys who are under contract. So I don't want people to write off Samaje Perine, who, by the way, had 2 back-to-back monster games and then started showing up in the injury report.
I feel like it's more likely players, fantasy owners, will write off the Washington run game if Perine is not named the starter.
Oh,
so if it's anybody
maybe.
but Perine. Like, Perine's young enough to where I think you're going to get that. You're going to get some of the
I think, though,
hype train going on.
I would say if Perine's not the starter, it's because they drafted a known name, and then the hype train may start. But
I see.
If someone of note, if one of these rookies of note does go to Washington, I'll be very excited about it, even with Alex Smith as the quarterback.
All right. Alex Smith was just fine for Kareem Hunt.
He certainly was.
That is it for the Overreaction episode. Thanks for
Charles.
tuning in. Check out the Ultimate Draft Kit at ultimatedraftkit.com. And don't forget to check out draft.com/ballers. Play some best ball with us.
Get your best bell on.
Get a sense.
Best bell?
Best
Get
bell?
your best bell on.
That's when you get Lev Bell in all your leagues.
Yeah, way to save it.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.